It's lovely to have you. She's a 5Rhythms dance practitioner, and Emma works with young people. Now, what she does in this 5Rhythms, we're going to find out, because we're going to have a live interview with the the mother of 5Rhythms, Gabrielle Roth. This is a piece of music that they may use in one of their sessions. Now, I'm keeping this music going because I don't know what time it is in New York, but it's blooming early. Good morning, Gabrielle Roth.
Hi, it's really early.
And what time's early?
Well, like 6:30, which is like 4 hours earlier than me.
4 hours earlier than you. Well, I've chosen a piece of music that I found that was associated with you. I want to introduce you again to Great Britain because I interviewed you won't remember this, years ago, back in 1988-89. I want Great Britain to know about Gabrielle Roth and what the 5Rhythms dance is. So what were you, are you, and how did you come at the 5Rhythms?
Well, interesting you were talking about youth because I actually started to create this practice when I was 16.
Right.
And I think it partially it was out of my need to pay my rent, put myself through college, and the only thing I knew how to do was dance. So I had to find a clever way to do that. And the other part was out of some form of rebellion that I just needed to find my own way to move. Because everything about dance at that time was locked into steps, like ballet or modern. There was always a form that you had to follow. And I felt like I saw a gypsy dancer in Spain, and she was the wildest, most wondrous thing I'd ever seen. And I realized then that's the dance I want, that passionate, fiery, freestyle dance.
And that's what if anybody Googles you, they will find a definition of you as a music director, a dancer, a philosopher, a recording artist, an interest in shamanism. Are you all those things? What are you? How do you see yourself now? A powerhouse of a woman of over 60 who's still doing it.
I always saw myself as a theater director. Like it's all theater. I walk in a room and it's like there's an audience, and everybody in the audience is a rock star, and it's my job to kind of bring them to that moment.
To free dance. I mean, one of your quotes, which I love, which is we're most of us on a trip, we're not on a journey, which is a kind of way that we're living our lives not properly. And then you open up an institute, the Moving Centre. You teach over 300 teachers, of which my lovely Emma Leech here is one of them over here. What made you start the school, and what is the purpose of what you do?
The purpose of what I do is, if we think of ourselves as fluid, and we let go of the notion that we're fixed, then we can discover that there's this real dance going on inside of us and all around us, and that we're like bodies of water. We're deep and we're fathomless, we're mysterious and we're mercurial, and we're fabulous, and in this energetic that we are, we can begin to find, we can move through that in a really feisty, honest, raw, real, authentic way. And
let me just leave you for a moment as you gather your thoughts, as it's 6:30, and I'm going to introduce Emma Leech. You can stay listening. Emma,
yes.
How did you come across 5Rhythms?
Well, like all things, I guess, is by accident. Just talking to someone in a shop through conversation. I was pretty heartbroken at the time. I was doing a bit of soul searching, and I'd kind of explored all these other sort of ways of healing my grief, if you like, at the time. I'd lost a very close, dear lover to a heroin overdose, and it just spun my world out of control. And I was introduced to the 5Rhythms, and I went along to a session. Gabrielle was over, I think it was in 1991, so it was many years ago. And I went to my first session with her, and I just felt like it was a place I could be real with myself. I felt I love dancing anyway. It's where I connect to the beat. But I didn't have to perform in any way. I could dance the dark side, I could dance the grief, and I could just empty out.
Now, when I hear both you and Gabrielle talk, it makes me wonder whether you have to be a certain sort of person to be able to throw yourself into this shamanistic dance. I mean, because lots of people will think, oh, and forgive me, Gabrielle, but they think flaky.
Oh, no, I don't use the word shamanistic myself. There's nothing flaky about it. Like once I was doing it in London, and we were actually doing the level of the work called heartbeat, where we dance our fear, and we dance our anger, and we dance, our sorrow and our joy, and we were up in this room with all these drums doing this dance, like about 150 people, and some guy came off the street and said, "I don't know what you're doing here, but you should rent this football stadium and do it for the whole country." But it was like we all need to release. We all need to let go. And actually, the 5Rhythms just give us a kind of a form in which we can be fluid, a form wherein we can find out what's going on inside of us and how to move and go through it.
Let me go back to Emma. You have developed Gabrielle's 5Rhythms by taking it, you call it outreach. I never know what that it means.
Or reach out. It's basically taking it to vulnerable, marginalised communities. So I've taken it into prisons. I've worked with addiction now. I'm in a place called Charter Daycare in Harley Street. I've worked in City Roads addiction clinic. I've worked with kids in Peckham schools. And they always send me the kids that they've got wild energy, that they've lost interest in their education, they've got stuff going on at home.
That's what we've been talking about today. That's why you're on the show today. I mean, and I've talked to my lovely Derek, who's he was saying, he grew up in Brixton, and is it by chance that somebody finds an Emma Leech or a Gabrielle Roth how do we make society that it isn't just a chance thing, that kids are able to express themselves and move forward?
Well, hopefully.
We're trying to bring it to the kids. I mean, after about 40 years, or 50 actually, I did create a 5Rhythm Reach Out, where we are going to underserved populations, which is where the whole work began. I mean, I began with kids, deaf kids, blind kids, kids in halfway houses, kids, incarcerated. I began there, and I began with seniors, and so I began with all the disenfranchised members of my culture, and that's where my work was born. So it's only appropriate at this point that it makes its way back into the people who wouldn't necessarily be looking for it, but who need it.
Let me ask you, somebody like Emma Leech, can anybody learn to be a 5Rhythms teacher? Do you have to be a psychologist, a dancer, a neurologist? What are you?
No, you don't have to be any of those things. You have to be a passionate person. You have to be willing to go to do the practice, to do the dance for at least 3 or 4 years before you apply for being a teacher.
Sorry to interrupt, but are you acknowledged in the States by the authority as something that works?
Oh, absolutely. Yes, absolutely.
I'm quoting here.
Who's the authority?
Yeah, well, exactly. That's another discussion. But it's 6:30 in the morning. Listen, by putting the body in motion, you say, through each of the rhythms, it is believed that one can deepen one's understanding of natural truth and the nature of humanity, and ground the mind and the spirit by connecting back to the body. Obesity in America, obesity in Great Britain, a lost generation. How important is the 5Rhythms?
Well, the 5 Rhythms would give a direct way to lose weight creatively. I mean, the 5 Rhythms are all about transforming the suffering into art into awareness. And the thing is, I once had a woman come to me in a conference, and she said, "I bet you don't recognize me. I was here last year." And I said, "No, I don't." She said, "Because I lost 100 pounds." And I said, "No kidding." She said, "Yes, you said that if I got up and danced every day for 15 minutes, I would lose weight and I could forget all my diets." And she said, "And I did that, and it worked." So, you know, it works on many, many, many levels.
I'm going to leave you on this wonderful quote of yours, and you can say just one thing, and then you can go back to sleep. But I love what you say, that it's a way for people to sweat their prayers.
Right.
Is that all you're going to say to me?
Yeah, well, it is. I was going to say it is a way to sweat your prayers. In other words, to have a direct experience of something more powerful than oneself, of the dance. For me, God is the dance. And I just want to say one thing to bring it out of the woo-woo place, which is we all have physical inertia. We have stuff we're holding on to, you know, in our muscles and our tension, and we all have emotional inertia, feelings that we haven't really expressed that we're carrying around. We all have a lot of mental activity, you know, all kinds of beliefs, everything that's been shoved in there. And what happens in the 5 Rhythms is you kind of put the psyche in motion and it heals itself. The body begins to move, feelings begin to move, your mind begins to change and move, and there a lot more space is opened up. And in that space, we become more fascinating.
Well, you couldn't become more fascinating if you tried, Gabrielle Roth. Listen, go back to sleep. I know it's hot in New York City. Thank you so much for talking to us, and have a great day.
Thank you.